Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, The Nancy Drew Guy. I've lived in Oklahoma for 37 years at the time of this recording, so when I first played Nancy Drew, Trail of the Twister, I couldn't help but notice how her interactive chose to represent my home state. Today we're going to take a closer look, not just at the storm chasing, but at how Oklahoma itself is portrayed in the game. From the landscapes and culture to the people and details, let's see just how accurate or interactive really was. Let's start with the weather. Oklahoma is right in the middle of Tornado Alley, averaging more than 50 tornadoes every year. They're most common in the spring, but they can happen any time of year. Some are brief and narrow, while others can last longer, stretch half a mile wide, and move at speeds over 50 miles per hour. Trail of the Twister leans heavily into that tornado reputation, and while the game captures the danger and unpredictability, it sometimes makes it feel like a twister could touch down at any moment. In reality, storms here have build-up and variety, not just constant funnels in the distance. I'll have sources for these facts linked in the description. In Trail of the Twister, there's this land rush style challenge where you race your opponent to stake claim to gold land by taking up parts of the screen. It evokes the historical land run of 1889, when the unassigned lands were opened for settlement, and thousands of hopefuls lined up with wagons, horses, or on foot, racing from a starting signal to stake their claim to 160 acres under homestead rules. In reality, that event involved huge crowds, legal gray areas, like Sooners entering early, and a lot more chaos than can be modeled in a game. I'll link the history source in the description. This next part might be a little weird. Does Oklahoma have a mouse problem? Well, let's look at what Trail of the Twister shows. The culprit tries to, and does, lure mice into the house with dry corn to wreak havoc. But is that realistic? So, I scoured the internet, and I found a video posted about 9 months ago. It's recent, and here it is.
Started a couple of months ago for us. We got kind of an uptick more than normal. Mice and rat calls.
An unusual number of calls and boxes of bait gone in 4 days.
I was like, okay, this is something different than I've ever experienced since I've been doing this since '07. The activity level is crazy.
That's how the owner at Blaze Pest Control knew something was going on, a rodent infestation.
Usually in the outlier areas, rats aren't that big of an issue. But this year, we've had a lot of rats.
So if your neighborhood's impacted by an influx of rats and mice, what can you do to keep the unwanted house guests away?
It might be as simple as a couple of traps. It might be putting a couple of bait packets somewhere. But what I think is the best prevention, and if you have them and you want to get rid of them, is bait boxes around your house.
There's multiple solutions. Ryan Gledhorn says the best thing to do is take action before it gets out of hand. He says if you're suspicious of rodents, there's a few key places to look for rodent feces and activity.
A couple things you can check. The hot water heater closet, that's a hot spot.
He also says look behind your fridge, in your pantry, under your sink, and in the attic. And if you think your house is well sealed, you might think again.
If they can get the tip of their nose kind of underneath something, a lot of times they can get the rest of their body.
Now, while you can find traps online, professionals have special tricks and bait to get rid of rodents quickly.
It's really powerful. This is the big dude, and this is the mouse size. Once the mice and rats hit the product that's inside the bait box, it's usually a 1 to 3 day period before they're gone completely.
This video documents rodent activity in Oklahoma. You'll see the proof in just a sec. Here's what we can tell from real life. People in Oklahoma report mouse and rat infestations often, especially in older buildings or homes with easy access points. Rodents are opportunistic, they follow food, shelter, and warmth, so anything like crumbs, dry corn, or grain is going to attract them. but unlike in the game, real infestations aren't always dramatic or obvious right away. They tend to build up over time, and often go unnoticed until the problem is bigger. Game versus reality, the game's idea of luring mice in with dry corn, not totally far-fetched. It's believable, because food is a common attractant, but does a house get overrun fast and catastrophically like in a game? That's probably exaggerated for effect. Real-life rodent problems are usually more gradual, also, the visibility and timing in the game, mice showing up exactly when needed, etc. are likely streamlined. Real infestations are messier, more unpredictable, and not always cinematic. Bottom line. Yes, Oklahoma can have a mouse problem. Next up, let's talk about places like, or similar to, Ma and Pa's from the game. Now, I couldn't find a general store in Oklahoma with that exact name, but I did come across a barbecue restaurant called Ma and Pa's in Coleman, Oklahoma. It's a small, local spot that clearly carries that homey, down-to-earth vibe the game is going for. While the game's Ma and Pa's is fictional, using a name like that instantly gives players a sense of a cozy, family-run place, the kind of local gathering spot you might find in towns across Oklahoma. If you're curious, I'll link the restaurant in the description so you can see it for yourself.
Howdy! Come on over here and be friendly. That's more like it. Welcome to Ma and Pa's.
Now let's move on to people who look like, or at least remind us of, Pa from the game. While Pa is a fictional character, his style is very much inspired by real people you would actually see in Oklahoma farm country. For example, I came across an article from Farm Progress about roundhouse overalls, which are made right in Shawnee, Oklahoma using Oklahoma-grown cotton. In the photos, you can see workers and models wearing those classic overalls, which really capture that same look and feel Pa has in the game. So while Pa may be digital, his style is grounded in the real working-class fashion of Oklahoma. Next up, let's take a look at the environment around the house and trail of the Twister. In the game, the farmhouse is placed on wide open land, which really does match the kind of rural, spread-out properties you can find in Oklahoma. For example, I found a real home listing in Delaware County that sits on open acreage, looking very similar to how the game presents it, a single house surrounded by fields and sky. Now, the environment in the game also includes a windmill. While it's not part of the house itself, it's still a fitting detail for the Oklahoma countryside. Windmills have a long history here, especially for pumping water for farms and ranches. There's even a windmill museum in Shattuck, Oklahoma, that showcases just how central they were to rural life. So between the farmhouse setting and the presence of windmills in the environment, the game does a solid job of capturing that authentic Oklahoma feel. Now let's shift gears and talk about some things Trail of the Twister might not have gotten quite right about Oklahoma. First up is the saying Nancy uses in the game. She says,
"They fired him quicker than lightning hitting a bee-stung greyhound," as they say around here.
Now, I actually looked into this, and I couldn't find any record of that being a real phrase used here in Oklahoma. It definitely sounds like something that could be local slang, but from everything I found, it seems our Interactive just invented it to give the dialogue a little extra local color. So, yeah, they took some creative liberties there. The second thing I want to point out is the idea of weather competitions between meteorology schools. In the game, the plot revolves around rival teams competing to predict severe weather, with the chance to win a large cash prize. That's definitely a fun storyline, but from what I could find, there aren't any competitions like that in real life here in Oklahoma. Our meteorology programs, like the one at the University of Oklahoma in Norman, are highly respected, but their focus is on research, forecasting, and public safety, not head-to-head contests for prize money. So while both of these elements make for a more entertaining game, they don't really reflect how things work in real life. Before we wrap up, I also want to mention a travel video I did on my other channel all about Oklahoma. If you're interested in seeing some real-life locations, landscapes, and towns that capture the spirit of the state, be sure to check it out. I've left a link in the description so you can watch it after this video. So overall, how accurate was Trail of the Twister in portraying Oklahoma? If I had to give it a score from 1 to 10, I'd land at about an 8.5. Her interactive really nailed a lot of the details, from the weather to the rural environment, but of course there were a few creative liberties taken along the way. Now, I didn't cover everything in this video. There are still some interesting parts of the game I didn't touch on, like the references to the Dust Bowl, real Oklahoma towns such as Norman and Chickasha, or even the weather terms that Frosty uses throughout. There's also that funny line about Chase saying Scott hollers more than all the Oklahoma football coaches combined, and considering how big both college and professional sports are here in Oklahoma, that one actually isn't too far off. If you currently live in Oklahoma and want to add something, make sure to comment down below. And if you live in a state or country that are interactive based one of their games on, I'd love to hear from you too. Let me know in the comments how accurate you think they got it. And don't forget, all the links and references I mentioned in this video will be in the description below, so you can check them out for yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and drop a comment below.